The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Tuesday, June 14th, 2016. I want to thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you decided to be with me, and I appreciate it. I never take it for granted. A lot happening in the news, but something I always neglect to do because I'm always thinking about what's in the news and what I want to say, that I quite literally forget this far too often. So what I want to do at the top of the show, and maybe I'll start doing it at the top of the show, is to thank all of our supporters, all of our patrons. We could not do this without you. We have new patrons today. I want to thank Gabrielle C. for becoming a patron, EJ, who just recently became a patron, Julie M., thank you so much for becoming a patron, Joe N., thank you so much for becoming a patron, and Quentin D., thank you so much for becoming a patron. We could not do this without you. As you can tell, we don't run any commercials yet. We do this completely solely off of your contributions. And so if you want to support the Benjamin Dixon Show, go to patreon.com/the BPD Show and become a patron. Our phone lines are open tonight. I probably will open them early, 857-600-0518. I'm not sure where I want to start because there's just so much to talk about. But let's start by wishing Donald Trump a happy 70th birthday. I'm sorry. It got really quiet in here. Donald Trump is 70 years old today, and you would think age does not equate to wisdom. I'll tell you that much. You would think someone that old would, with that many years behind them, would have a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of insight. But Donald Trump is the exact opposite of wise. So he's 70 years old today. You would never have guessed it. I never, not because he doesn't look old, but just simply because he doesn't carry himself as a person who has 70 years of experience in this world. But I guess experience is relative, right? 70 years of experience being an egotistical, narcissistic sociopath is what happens. That's what you look like at 70 when you have all those years of people never telling you no, and all those years of people never correcting you and never having to reflect on how you can make yourself better, because you have people around you who are paid to tell you that you're the great and you're the best and you have the best English and you have the best steaks and you have all, so happy birthday, Donald Trump. That's my birthday greeting and wishes to you. But since we're talking about Donald Trump, let's talk about all the things Donald Trump has done since the Orlando shooting. And they're relevant because it really ties into the way America approaches a lot of things, which is really ridiculous and really asinine. First of all, this entire thing about Orlando, the Pulse nightclub and shooting, on a national level, in many ways, it has been whitewashed from being about an explicit, express attack on the LGBTQ community to being a question of what are we going to call Islamic terrorism? Right. What words are we going to use? How are we going to describe it? And Donald Trump is running around the country with all of this bravado about him being right about how we're going to characterize and describe or call this act, which minimizes and reduces. We talked about this last night, but we got to talk about it again. It minimizes and reduces all of the and not complicated, but layers, just layers upon layers of things that drove and motivated this guy. We want to whitewash it and minimize it and reduce it to being about Islamic terrorism. And this is not just something Donald Trump is doing. This is something Hillary Clinton has done also. And she is allowing Donald Trump. I said all this yesterday, and I will congratulate myself on being first to many of these narratives, because we said it last night. As soon as I found out that this young man, this murderer, had visited and frequented the Pulse nightclub, you automatically know that he is a person that was struggling with his identity and to a certain extent hated himself. And then we can add the layer on top of it that the reason he hated himself probably was because of his religion and probably because of how his father treated him. And you can see all these things started to unravel. So it's not just a guy who went online and got radicalized by ISIS and all of a sudden turned from a normal, stable guy who was suddenly captured by this ridiculous ideology that is a cancer and has taken over the United States, and he got radicalized and he came and did this terrible deed. No. The story is far more complex, not complicated, but complex with multiple layers. But Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have both reduced this to being about radical Islam. And so what I'm saying about Donald Trump really does apply to Hillary Clinton, too, because even though Donald Trump expressed this with this narcissistic bravado that he expresses everything. I mean, shit, he can't say good morning without saying it in a narcissistic way. It doesn't absolve Hillary Clinton from the fact that she, too, has also whitewashed and minimized and reduced this down to being about radical Islam versus all of the complex factors that were driving this man to this moment of expressing this deep-seated hatred that he had for himself, that he had for the LGBTQ community, and that he had for America. It's all the above with this guy. And Hillary Clinton, both, and Donald Trump, they have turn this into an opportunity to make this a nationalistic rallying point. Hillary Clinton said yesterday that this should be a 9/12 moment, like the day after 9/11, when there was no political animosity and everyone was on one accord and we came together in unity. And little did she did not go further and say what happened because of that unity on 9/12. Because of that unity on 9/12, we ended up invading the wrong country. And we're stuck in wars not a generation, but a decade later because of that unification that took place after 9/11 on 9/12. So Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have both made this about radical Islam, which gets me back to the point. Sorry, went off topic. The point of what I wanted to say was this. Donald Trump has been able to set the narrative with this shooting. And that's because Hillary Clinton, and we'll talk about President Obama in a minute, but particularly Hillary Clinton was not brave enough or bold enough to actually wait to get just a little bit more information before having to present herself as bold and strong. Because if anyone, and actually, let's go beyond the two candidates. Let's go to the media. I'm listening to NPR, and I'm going to stop listening to NPR because NPR is doing two things. They are doing disaster massacre porn type reporting, and they are beating the drums of nationalism and war because whenever they mention the sexuality of the killer, they always mention it as an aside. And they never focus on it as a possible motive. They only focus on him being radicalized online. And to me, anyone who is reducing this to being a guy who was simply radicalized online is intentionally missing the layers that he existed in. And again, it's not in any attempt to humanize this guy, right? I have no need to humanize him. But for us to understand the tragedy, for us to understand the massacre and what really drove him, and more importantly, for us not to push ourselves into another quagmire of 10 years because we are responding to the wrong information instead of waiting patiently to find out exactly all of the factors at play here. Instead of doing that, we want to rally behind a 9/12 spirit. Back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has set the tone. Donald Trump has set the tone, and Hillary Clinton is now playing catch up so that Donald Trump doesn't look stronger than her. And so now we've gone with the term radical Islam. That's the term that Hillary Clinton, and she tried to play it off as something uniquely different by saying radical Islamism, but it's essentially radical Islam. Right. That's what she said. And this is something now to be sure, I don't have any problem with calling it radical Islam because who cares? I do believe our Muslim brothers and sisters, their community, they are strong enough to handle somebody trying to identify the problem of radicalized teens carrying out terrorism. I'm sure they have broad enough shoulders in the Muslim community to handle the term radical Islam. So I personally don't care about it. But the reality of it is, what in the world does calling it radical Islam do any differently than all of the Hellfire drone missiles that we're dropping on ISIS right now? Calling it radical, I call it insane Islamists of America. I don't care what you call it. It does not change the strategy of what we're doing. We should be critiquing the strategy of what we're doing instead of allowing the Republican Party to once again set the parameters of our debate. The entire conversation has become about who's going to say radical Islam. Apparently, I don't have my headphones on right tonight, so I'm going to be trying to adjust these all night. We have allowed Donald Trump and the Republican Party to set the parameters of the debate around this. And because we've allowed them to set the parameters, we have erased the LGBTQ community. And we have erased the fact that this man hated himself, had a level of self-hatred because of his sexuality or his inability to embrace his sexuality and unleash that self-hatred on an entire club of people. Not to mention the fact that he had mental illness that his wife mentioned. He was already a domestic abuser. He was already a violent person. He already had a confluence of shitstorm personality traits that he should never have been able to get. Maybe we need psychological evaluations before you can get a gun. Because this dude most assuredly would not have passed a psychological eval. So we have completely erased mental health issues. We've erased the LGBTQ community. We've erased his self-hatred that came as a part of his religion, his self-hatred that came apart as a part of America, right? Not just Islam, but America. We have a culture that is homophobic. You do not have to go to Islam to find homophobia. You can find homophobia just by turning on the news. Right. So every bit of nuance, we've erased it. And the entire damn conversation has become about, what are you going to call it? You're going to call it radical Islam or not? If you don't know how to call it radical Islam, how are you going to ever beat it? Well, we're going to beat it. Apparently, they think the way to beat it is by dropping a shit load of drone missiles on ISIS every day. I mean, if you think our missile attacks are going to be better by calling it radical Islam, if you think that's going to put a little oomph on that drone strike, then maybe you have some voodoo that we don't understand. Maybe you have some militaristic voodoo that we just don't understand. And we need to just rub those missiles and say radical Islam, radical Islam, radical Islam, and then drop them. Maybe is that what you're thinking? And the most disturbing part about this is we have allowed a Neanderthal buffoon, and that's an insult to Neanderthals. We have allowed a cretin sludge, orange sludge, slime of the earth maniac and his 7 dwarfs of a GOP to define the parameters of a very serious conversation. We've allowed them to set the window by which we're going to have this conversation. And Hillary Clinton and the rest of the Get Along gang are happily acquiescing and complying because they need to be bold and they need to show strength. All right. So this story is about so much more than radical Islam. But I don't care what you call it. Changing the name of what we call it has absolutely zero to do with our successful or our unsuccessful attempts to crush it. You're going to have some people, in the political debate, some people think we're doing a good job with ISIS. Some people think we're doing a piss poor job. I am of the opinion that it doesn't matter what kind of job we're doing. changing the name and debating of whether or not we're going to call it radical Islam is not going to have 1 cent iota of an impact on how effective or how ineffective our campaigns are against ISIS. And why, for the love of all sanity, do we keep allowing buffoons to define the narrative? Part of me thinks that Hillary Clinton and the DNC know exactly what they're doing. But on days like today, I think they are clueless as to how to handle someone like Donald Trump and the Republican Party. When you have a buffoon, it's so easy to get as Donald Trump. I just think that they don't know how to handle him. Instead, they're running up behind him like scared. Let me choose my words very precisely here, because somebody will go back and find this footage and bring it back up and say I was being X, Y, or Z. They're afraid and they're reactionary, and they are responding to his cues instead of dictating this is what our conversation is going to be about. And that's actually what the good President Obama tried to do today. He tried to dictate the terms by which we were going to have this debate. I want to play a quick clip of President Obama essentially reacting to Donald Trump. Listen in.
What exactly would using this label accomplish? What exactly would it change? Would it make ISIL less committed to trying to kill Americans? Would it bring in more allies? Is there a military strategy that is served by this? The answer is none of the above. Calling a threat by a different name does not make it go away. This is a political distraction. Not once has an advisor of mine said, man, if we really use that phrase, we're going to turn this whole thing around.
Okay, exactly.
Not once. So if someone seriously thinks that we don't know who we're fighting, if there's anyone out there who thinks we're confused about who our enemies are, that would come as a surprise to the thousands of terrorists.
Oh, that was a bad edit. That would come as a surprise to the thousands of terrorists that we've taken off of the battlefield, is essentially what he said. Debate the strategy. Debate whether or not our strategy is creating more terrorists, right? Debate whether or not you think we should, what did one of these campaign, Ted Cruz said, make the sand glow, right? Debate that. But debating whether or not we're going to call it radical Islam is ridiculous and reactionary and has absolutely zero bearing on how effective or how ineffective of a campaign we're running against ISIS. And allowing the Republican Party and conservatives and Donald Trump to dictate the terms by which we have this conversation means that they are in control. And here I was thinking Hillary Clinton was this Machiavellian level politician. I said it once, I'll say it again. They are masters of fighting back against progressivism, but they are noobs at fighting back against conservatism. And I thought for a minute it was because they don't legitimately want to fight back against conservatism, because they soft embrace the economic policies of conservatives, right? They are neoliberals for the love of God. And some of them are neocon. Well, maybe I just answered my own. Maybe she has no desire to have a substantive conversation about how we fix this, because she's just satisfied with what we're doing now, raining hellfire down every day, all day long, and still creating more terrorists by the day. Yeah, maybe I just answered my own damn question. All right. 857-600-0518. Let's keep the conversation going. So also I want to talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has suspended or rejected the credentials for the Washington Post. right? Long live. I told you, if there's any amendment that we're going to drop, it's not going to be the Second Amendment, but he rejected the credentials of the Washington Post because of an article written by Jenna Johnson. She wrote it on yesterday, and the title of the article, he didn't like the headline. The title, because if you read the article, all she had was essentially his quotes, right? I didn't see a whole bunch of commentary. I just saw a record of his quotes. So he didn't like the headline, and the headline was entitled "Donald Trump seems to connect President Obama to Orlando shooting." There you go on your screen. Donald Trump seems to connect President Obama to Orlando shooting, by Jenna Johnson. Because of this headline on yesterday, I guess yesterday was Monday, because of that headline, Donald Trump has rejected the credentials of the Washington Post. And, what do you, we're sitting back, and this is your Republican presumptive nominee essentially executing his authoritarian proclivities. He is demonstrating his propensity to be an authoritarian dictator. And yet, I'm not hearing a lot of fallout or complaints from Republicans. I'm not surprised about that. I just like pointing out the hypocrisy. While they're complaining about President Obama and Obamacare being this totalitarian, authoritarian dictatorship, they are literally walking and standing lockstep behind a maniac who, if he doesn't like the media, suppresses the media. I mean, this is classic authoritarianism. This is just the beginning. Like, he's testing the waters to see how far he can get away with this. And, the problem with the media, this is partly the media's fault. The problem with them is that they simply give commentary on it. Instead of saying, wait a minute, we are the unofficial fourth branch of the government. We have a responsibility to protect ourselves as well as our partners and our colleagues, rather. Instead of all of the media saying, if you reject one, you reject us all. There should be zero coverage of Donald Trump until the Washington. Now, don't get me wrong. In a lot of ways, the Washington Post on some days really sucks. This article was not one, because it was pretty straightforward from everything I've read. I was looking for commentary, didn't see much commentary. It was just she documented everything that Donald Trump said that alluded to him tying President Obama to the shooter, or at a minimum being sympathetic with the shooter, particularly in his unwillingness to say radical Islam. Like, that is the benchmark for these. I don't even have the vocabulary to describe how dumb these people are, right? Like, this is the benchmark. This is the holy grail. If you can't say radical Islam, then you are a radical Islamist sympathizer. And so, because what's her name again? Jenna Johnson tied all his words together and said that it looks like Donald Trump is trying to say President Obama is connected to, or it sympathizes with this terrorist. Donald Trump rejects their press credentials. And what does the media do? They just report on it instead of saying, you know what? Nobody covers Donald Trump. Nobody follows him. No, just a complete media blackout, a complete mainstream media blackout until he restores those credentials. Donald Trump is going to get away with whatever you allow him to get away with. All right, let's take this first caller. I'm getting over a cold here. You're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, man, this is Bryce. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, Bryce, I can hear you fine, man. What's on your mind?
Well, obviously, as you saw with, Trump and Giuliani, some other Republicans in the right wing, the hypocrisies are coming out. And, we're not even discussing the real issues, the real problems, which is picking how we want to pick out the media doing what they're doing. And then Obama, give, pretty good speech about everything for the past couple of days.
Yep.
And it is astonishing to me how the media, it's just, especially Republicans, they're so quiet because they want to beat on these war drums. And then it just continues to get into worse and worse situations. It's just astonishing to me. I just don't understand. And then Trump wanted to do rituals and be authoritarian, and Hillary trying to double down or trying to do different things. It's just mind blowing to me. I'm just watching this and just looking at it, just like, really, like this is what we're going to do. These are the tactics that we're going to take and the games we're going to play. And to me, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
I mean, because there's no point, no purpose.
There is no reason or rhyme to it, man. It makes no sense. I don't know. I guess if I explore a lot of different possibilities of motivations, right? I like to explore motivations. If we explore the motivations, then maybe we could pinpoint one that makes sense. But I have to go through a lot of iterations of possibilities for me to finally find one and say, what Hillary Clinton did today with radical Islam makes a lot of sense. And it doesn't make sense. It's either cowardice and needing to appear strong, or she is quite okay with a neocon approach of America, or a combination of both. 857-600-0518. The returns coming out of the D.C. primary. It's already called by the AP for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton at 78.7%, Sanders at 21.1% with 75% reporting. So that's a done deal. I did want to speak about the meeting that Donald Trump. I'm sorry, not Donald Trump. I want to speak about the meeting that Hillary Clinton is having with Bernie Sanders, or has already had late this afternoon. The meeting was ostensibly to be about joining camps or exploring the possibility of endorsement or bringing the campaign to an end. Nobody really knew exactly what this meeting was going to be about. Indications started to come out early on yesterday that Hillary Clinton, of course, as to be expected, wants to combine campaigns, particularly that email list that Bernie Sanders has, because the email list is worth its weight in gold. And indications are coming out that Bernie Sanders is refusing to give that over, which is his prerogative. It's their proprietary property. That's right. It's theirs. And that Bernie Sanders is going to keep pressing to the convention and possibly beyond. I've got a lot of thoughts about that, some that might surprise you, and I'm wondering if I should talk about it. Okay, I'll talk about it. I'll bite. If Bernie Sanders is saying to us that what he's doing is bigger, I'm going to surprise some of you guys. Trust me. If Bernie Sanders is saying to us that what he's doing is bigger and more important than the 2016 election, and he's not particularly interested in the outcome of this election, but what he's more interested in is galvanizing and maintaining this progressive movement beyond 2016. Damn it, I'm on board. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought about that thing today while I was ironing my shirt, and that got me excited. That got me excited because it would mean that Bernie Sanders will embrace everything negative that they said about him and say, who the F cares? I'm Bernie motherfucking Sanders, and I'm leading the revolution. A political revolution is what is the most needed in America. Before today, I was under the impression that Bernie Sanders I had the feeling that Bernie Sanders was just simply going to endorse Hillary Clinton, and that was the end of it, and we'll live to fight another day. But I was just sitting there ironing my shirt and thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute, this dude might be stubborn enough and might absolutely have nothing to lose enough for him to keep pressing and say, no, I'm not endorsing Hillary Clinton. No, I'm not merging the parties. No, I'm just going to keep moving with my political revolution. That doesn't mean I'm going to try to block Hillary Clinton. And that doesn't mean I'm going to do anything in this election. Doesn't mean I'm going to run as independent. It simply means that I'm going to run a political progressive movement completely outside of the scope of Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and the 2016 election. Because one way I've been consistent from the beginning is because I have always said this movement has to be about more than the election that's coming up. And to make and to fall on his sword to run as a third party just for the hopes of beating Hillary Clinton and then ultimately turning it over to Donald Trump. Without a fourth party, it turns it over to Donald Trump. To me, it's just kind of a waste, because what's next? That's almost like the culmination, November, right? That would have been the culmination. If Bernie Sanders is saying, I'm maintaining my own database, I am maintaining this revolution, I'm going to keep mobilizing large audiences, I'm going to keep moving the people to political action, and I'm going to keep doing it beyond November, and I'm moving into January of next year, and we're going to have this level of progressive rallies and gathering and organization every day while Bernie Sanders is alive, you're damn right I'm on board for that. The only thing I'm not on board for is him running as a third-party candidate without a fourth-party candidate. I'm not on board for that. Donald Trump is weak, but he is not that weak that we can divide the left completely and still beat him with one or the other. In a three-way race, Donald Trump wins. In a four-way race, we might have a good competition. So I'm just exploring some things with you here, right? I'll get back to my main point in a second. But let's say Mitt Romney has the ability to elevate Gary Johnson to a larger prominence on the national stage and help Johnson and the Libertarian Party actually cut off a large chunk of Donald Trump's contingency and movement. Then by all means, for the sake of our democracy and to end the two-party shenanigans that have been going on for a very long time, it's in the best interest of America for there to be a fourth party candidate. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think there should be a third party run in the absence of a fourth party, because that simply gives it to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is shaping out to be the devil we don't know. The devil who is truly authoritarian, right? Put all of that aside. If Bernie Sanders, forget about everything else I said. If Bernie Sanders is saying that he is in this political revolution, not until November, but until he's dead, over the next 10, 20 years, however long he has left, he's going to keep rallying and keep pushing and keep maintaining that organized email list and keep using that list to pump money into candidates. If he does that, I'm the first one to sign up. Sign me up, Bernie. Sign me up. And again, the qualifier here is I do not think he should run as a third party in the absence of a fourth party. There should not be a three-way race. There should be a four-way, I can't even say it, four-way race. All right, enough of that. 857, I actually got some callers online in the queue. Caller, I'm sorry about that long wait. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Dave in New York.
David, what's on your mind, man?
And I just want to say before I go off into my question that I have for you, that I'm completely in sync with what you just said. I've been wondering if he's going to use that mailing list.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it with the Verizon strike, and when he did it with the Verizon strike and was trying to bring on support for the strike, it made me wonder: is there legality issues with using it outside of the election, and does he have plans to do that? I think it would be amazing. I think it would be unprecedented, but I think it would be amazing.
Yeah.
But here's my question for you, taking it back to Orlando, Trump, and Hillary.
Go for it.
It's twofold. I find it really, I don't know if astonishing is the right word, but mind-boggling that it hasn't been given this, much attention. You really have two candidates that aren't too far off in terms of goals and visions when it comes to terror and defense. So Trump has, said he wants a ban on a religion. He wants to ban based on religion, and specifically Muslims. And then after Orlando came out, he doubled down on that after trying to backtrack. And Hillary, in response, I'm not sure if it was directly in response, but on the same topic, because of Orlando, said that she wants to strengthen lists. And I think in this specific case, it was the terror watch list.
Exactly. Yep.
In my mind, that's in both cases they're taking away. They're seeking to restrict freedoms that citizens are entitled to. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to know your thoughts on if you see that same parallel where they're both doing it in different ways, but just as damaging, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And then the second end of that, when it comes to the list, terror watch list, no fly list, all that. I don't think I've ever heard you discuss that, and I was just curious. In my mind, the more I've learned about it, there's no due process. It's based on intel, based on either the president or the agencies in charge of them. And time again, we've seen the intel be wrong. It's not always wrong. I'm sure there's many times we don't know because it's, classified, etc. But what we do know, there's been multiple, instance after instance where the intel is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're infringing on rights.
Definitely. There's been
I want to know your thoughts on those.
Hey, man, thanks for the call. There definitely have been people who have been put on that list based on faulty information, and they have to go through all types of hurdles to get off of that list. So there are problems with this terrorist watch list, the no-fly list. There are a lot of problems. There are civil liberties problems with it, right? There are all types of problems with our entire intelligence program, particularly as it pertains to counterterrorism and our attempt to quote unquote protect ourselves from terrorist attacks. There are problems with it, right? And so some people will say, okay, because there are problems with that, then we shouldn't use it as a way to undermine or to fight back against the ease with which people can get guns. I'm not of that opinion. I am of the opinion that it's here. We are not getting rid of it yet. We haven't done what we need to do to get rid of it. But can we all agree that, the last thing that people on the terrorist watch list need to worry about is getting a gun? We need to get them if their names are cleared. And if we're not going to get rid of the list, then to me, it just seems reasonable. There very well might be people on that list who need to be on that list, and they should not be free to buy weapons. Now, there's this final argument that undermines what I just said, and I don't mind giving it to you because it's a great argument, is that if they are on the terrorist watch list legitimately, then there are usually other issues that would prevent them from getting a weapon in the first place. That's not categorical. It makes sense. It's a good argument, and I get it. But you have to pray with me on the terrorist watch list. Maybe I'm not fully. Let's go back to your first question. The first question I actually have a solid opinion on. The first question that you asked was the different approaches. One, Hillary Clinton seeking to increase the surveillance, right? We talked about that yesterday. And the last but not least, Donald Trump saying he wants to ban Muslims. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Both of them are clearly infringing on your civil liberties. It's infringing on the Constitution, right? But here's a problem. So Donald Trump's is patently unconstitutional. Clearly, right? There is no real practical way that they can execute this without it being completely and totally unconstitutional, which means it should be a non-starter. It should be something that's dead on arrival as soon as it touches the House of Representatives. But we've got some stupid House of Representative congressmen who will go along with Donald Trump. And so it's a possibility that it would get passed, and it will have to actually people's lives may be sincerely damaged before it gets to the Supreme Court for us to rule that it's unconstitutional. That's the problem with Donald Trump's thing, is how stupid of a House of Representatives and the Senate would we have if he became president. On the Hillary Clinton side of the equation, the fact of the matter is that we are already in that stage, in that era that we are able to, we have such leeway with surveillance that Hillary Clinton's plan would be passed and implemented without even needing to pass legislation. Hillary Clinton's plans are realistic, just as realistic as they are likely a violation of our civil liberties. Two different plans, one more openly nefarious, one that would have horrific ramifications on the day-to-day lives of Muslims in America, depending on the House and the Senate, while we get time for a trial to get to the Supreme Court. You know, you're talking about maybe 6 months to a year minimum before someone is able to pass a lawsuit or to file a lawsuit that makes it to the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of people who will be hurt. Hillary Clinton, they wouldn't have to pass anything, right? As soon as she gets in, those policies will be implemented and they will have a greater leeway, greater leverage in terms of surveillance. Both of them are, yeah. So anyway, that's it. All right, 857-600-0518. I got these things are ready. So another thing I want to talk about with, unfortunately, I think it's Donald Trump still, because there's so many layers of stupid that he dealt with today. So we dealt with the Associated Press, with the Washington Post, the ban on Muslims, credentials from the Washington Post, connecting to Obama, Donald Trump. Nope, I'm done with Donald Trump. Thankfully. All right, done with him. Let's shift gears and cover a story that I missed yesterday because of what yesterday was, right? I mean, it's understandable. Let's talk about this guy, Raj Fernando. Raj Fernando is a commodities broker from Chicago, and I'm going to put his face on the screen here. He is a Hillary Clinton mega supporter. I'm going to give him my own title. He's a mega supporter of Hillary Clinton. He has donated he has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for a Democratic congressman. He has given over $1 million to the Clinton Foundation. And according to State Department emails that were obtained because of a lawsuit associated with Citizens United, we also found out that this person who has absolutely zero experience in national security, zero experience in nuclear disarmament or nuclear treaties or any relevant experience, he was appointed to a advisory board in the State Department for which he had absolutely no skills, no past experience, nothing to contribute. He was appointed, and the only clear indication that the only rational conclusion that anyone can make is because of his tremendous amount of donations to the Clinton Foundation and to Democrats, that he was appointed to this position. In my opinion, it actually gets a little bit worse, because not only was he appointed to a board that he had he had no business being on the International Security Advisory Board, but he is also a super delegate for Hillary Clinton. To me, I don't know. It is bad enough that he got this political appointment, and we'll talk a little bit more about the appointment itself, but political appointments happen. And it is problematic that he got a political appointment to something so important to our national security that everyone on there is a top level expert with top secret clearances. And then you get this guy who is a commodities broker. The only skill set that he has is money. That's it. So it's bad enough he got that appointment, but now not only has Hillary Clinton sold out national security the security of this board. Not only has she sold that out, but she's also sold a piece of our democracy by appointing the same guy. He is a superdelegate for Hillary Clinton. This is the problem with our democracy. This is the problem with the Democratic Party. This is the problem with money in politics. People get advantages. People get concessions. People get things. Nobody gives $1 million to anybody without wanting something. And the notion that it is suddenly clean because it happens on the Democratic side of the equation is as asinine as it is disingenuous. And so ABC did some brilliant reporting. It's like the first time I've seen ABC do some investigative reporting in a long time. It was a brilliant piece, and it involved this Cheryl Mills, who I brought up on your screen. Cheryl Mills is a top-level assistant for Hillary Clinton, and she is essentially she's going to take the fall for this. She's going to take the fall for this. And the reason I know this is some documents that I'm bringing up on your screen. This is from the email that was pulled because of the lawsuit in regards to Raj Fernando. And right there in the center, you can see the implications. They're saying the question is, why was Raj Fernando on this board for which he had no qualifications? The answer that they gave was the true answer. Quote, the true answer is simply that S staff, Cheryl Mills, added him. Raj was not on the list sent to S. He was added at their insistence. S is shorthand in their emails for the Secretary of State because they don't want to include the Secretary of State's name in much of their internal communications. So we see Cheryl Mills is going to be the person, if there's any fallout for this, Cheryl Mills is already primed to be the person to receive the short end of the stick. She's going to take the fall. It gets a little bit worse. So when confronted by ABC News about why this person was on this list, on this board that he had no business being, highlighted there, you see Cheryl Mills has asked that Jamie stall for 24 hours. So in response to the inquiry as to why this man, who had no reason whatsoever to be on a board that dealt with sensitive information that requires top secret clearance, in addition to lifelong work of excellence in the field of nuclear arms. And we have this lame commodities broker on this board. And to that inquiry, Cheryl Mills asked them to stall for 24 hours. And 24 hours later, Raj Fernando resigned. Democracy in action. The Democratic Party in action. Hillary Clinton and her team in action. And let me reiterate, this is a man who has donated personally over $1 million to the Clinton Foundation. This is a man who has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for Democrats. This is a man who was introduced at the Clinton Foundation Initiative conference, whatever it is, that conference they do every year, introduced by Bill Clinton on a panel with Bill Clinton. And the breadth and depth of his skill set that qualified him was the fact that he was able to raise this money and donate this amount of money. All right, folks, let me take a pause for a station identification. You can support the Benjamin Dixon Show. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show. We want you to become a patron. If everybody who's watching and listening right now just pledge $1, if you pledged $1 on a monthly basis, you could help elevate the Benjamin Dixon Show where we need to go. Now, I think I might be worth at least a coffee, like $2.50. What we do here should be like on a monthly basis, a little $5, like 2 coffees. Buy me 2 coffees, right? Or buy me some really high priced, overpriced, nasty franchise coffee, right? For $5. Buy me one coffee a month and support what we're doing here at the Benjamin Dixon Show. We're going to continue to expand. We're on iHeartRadio. We are on, I almost said one that I shouldn't say yet. There's one coming around the corner that I'll be able to announce probably next week. So we're on iHeartRadio. We are on the Ring of Fire Network. We stream live on Spreaker, Internet Radio. We're on every podcast platform out there. If you can find a podcast, we are there. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. And we're out here giving them hell every single day. What would help me give them hell every single day? I'm going to be honest with you. What would help me give them hell every single day is if I didn't have to get up at 5 a.m. and go to work as many hours as I do. I don't want you to replace my job because my job pays me good, but I have to work a lot of hours. And what I want to do is be able to hire some other people to help lift the heavy lifting, to help with the production, to help with the videos, to help with the graphics, to all those types of things. We want to expand the team, grow the team, and I can't do it without you. I'm going to start plugging every single night because I want this to be viewer supported. Go to patreon.com. Yes, I'm begging. Yeah, no, I'm not begging. I'm just letting you know. We're going to talk about this every night because I think we give a hell of a show and you can help me give even better of a show. If you go to patreon.com/the BPD show and become a patron with $1 a month, $5 a month, and hell, go all the way as up as you can give, as far up as you can give. Okay. Okay, somebody wants to know if patreon.com is tax deductible. No, I'm almost 100% certain that it's not tax deductible. But yeah, it would only be tax deductible if I was like a church. Maybe I could start the first progressive church of the Progressive Army. All right, last story of the night. And I probably shouldn't have, this one's going to piss you off and this one's going to piss me off. I really should not wait until the end to do this one, but I want to talk about the pastor from Verity Baptist Church in California, Pastor Roger Jimenez. I know I messed that one up. Roger Jimenez. This is a pastor who, well, I'm not going to try to describe it. I'm going to let the pastor speak for himself.
Are you sad that 50 pedophiles were killed today? No, I think that's great. I think that helps society. I think Orlando, Florida is a little safer tonight. Now that 50, the tragedy is that more of them didn't die. I mean, the tragedy is I'm kind of upset that he didn't finish the job because these people are predators. They are abusers. They take advantage of people. And look, as Christians, we need to take the stand that it is not our job to sit there and say, oh, this is a tragedy, or oh, this is something we mourn. Or look, the Bible paints a picture that these are wicked people.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to do this segment without cussing. I have to take ownership. In a lot of ways, I have to take ownership of people like this, right? We say all the time for moderate Muslims to take a stand against radical Islam. See, Donald Trump, I could use it too. We say that they should take responsibility for it. And so I'm going to take responsibility because I'm a Christian. I'm going to take responsibility for my sadly demented and deluded brother here. I'll take it. I'll take responsibility because he has allowed his ambition and his hatred, right? He's allowed his hatred and his ambition to trump anything in the Bible that's redeemable about love, right? He has focused his animosity on a community that has already been marginalized, already been abused, already been targeted, already the victims of so many years of hatred from people like this. And so when you have to understand, this is why I get upset when people attack Islam, particularly Christians, because I know full well that it's only one opportunistic sermon away from coming from Christians ourselves. It is. And the level that he ascended to, and to be fair to Christians, this is like the next level, right? You have your John Hagees, you have your Jerry Falwells, you have these preachers who are disgusting and bigoted, right? But this is the next level of big. This is bigoted squared. And he's taken it to a level where he feels that we as Christians and we as human beings should not mourn these. He's calling them pedophile. First of all, equating homosexuality with pedophilia. This extremism exists in every corner of America, in every corner of society. And unfortunately, it seems to solidify and foment right in our religious circles. So the first thing I'm going to say, I apologize that this level of bigotry is so blatant and comes so readily from Christian circles. I can't do anything but apologize to the human race for somebody like this who has taken the interpretation that he chooses to take. He reads it like this, and he reads it and intentionally ignores everything else that the Bible says that would completely erase the hatred that he's spewing. It is impossible for me, and I'm not making this. You think whatever you want to think about the Bible. I care less what you think about the Bible because I don't want you to tell me what I should think. But the way I read the Bible, it is so much more about how we treat our neighbors, how we treat our fellow human beings. It is so much more about the love that we show. Now about it, hope, love, and hope. I'm rusty. Hope, charity, and love. The greatest of these is love, right? The greatest thing that we can do is express love. And you have this type of hatred that exists every single day. Every day somebody uses religion as a means of hurting someone else. Every day somebody uses religion as an excuse to be the reason they express that hate. It is their means of absolving themselves of any responsibility to be a decent human being and blame their hatred on an invisible God that they've never seen so that they can say, no, this is what God told me to do. No, you're just an asshole. You're just a small person with a very small interpretation of the world who wants nothing more than to express a hatred, a deep-seated hatred of yourself and of your fellow man. And so you have this man who intentionally ignores everything else that's in the Bible that would make him sit down and realize that he is far more disgusting than anything else that he thinks he can describe about a group of people who have been so marginalized and so hurt throughout history. And let's put it like this. I'll put it like this, brother. If heaven is full of people like you, then sign me up to go to hell.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.